Hi, welcome to Coding Bible channel. In this video, I will talk about what is a standalone component or why did Angular team create a standalone component. To understand this, you have to know how Angular module decreases the performance. Okay, maybe this is confusing for you because we said before that one of the uses of Angular module is lazy loading, and lazy loading increases the performance by dividing the code of the application into many files. Okay, this is true and this is good, but this dividing is not the optimum. Why? Because always Angular module will include unnecessary JavaScript code. For example, suppose we created Angular module that has two components, login component and register component. So when the user open the login page, Chrome will download the code that's responsible for showing login page, and also the code that is responsible for register page. And in that case, the code for showing our the code for register page is not necessary in the login page. And this is the problem, that always we have unnecessary JavaScript code. Some people think that Angular team created standalone component to solve the problem of shared module, and this is not true. The problem with the shared module is that the amount of the unused JavaScript code will be large or will be very big, which means the shared module will make the problem with the performance very big. So what is exactly the shared module? In some Angular courses, the course creator wants to teach you, for example, Angular material, and they will create, or he or she creates a module called shared module, in which they import a lot of Angular material modules, okay, that is used in the whole application. So for example, let's see the Angular material page. As you can see, there is a component or a module for autocomplete, one for badge, one for bottom sheet, one for cards, and so many. Okay, so they will import almost most of these modules in this shared module and use it in the whole application, but this is very bad for performance. They show you this is a very good idea to organize your code, but this is a very bad idea for performance. And unfortunately, the user or your client will evaluate your application by the performance, not by the code organization. So now I will explain the problem in details with and without shared module. Let's see this. So suppose we have a shared module, okay, and the X module, okay, and suppose that we have 12 modules inside the shared module, and the size of each module is about 50 kilobytes, which means the total size of the shared module will be 600 kilobytes, okay. Okay, we have 12 module, but I just write the names of these three because I need them in this example. Okay, and suppose that this module have three components, A, B, C. Okay, and suppose that A component needs the tabs module, and the B component needs the table module, and C component needs the button module. Okay, and also suppose that each one of them is responsible for showing a page. For example, suppose that we have a page with the URL /A, and we have another page /B, and we have another page /C. Okay, so now because component A needs tabs module, and the component B needs table, and component C needs button module, we will import this shared module inside the X module here. Okay, so now the size or the total size of the X module will be 600 here in the shared module, and suppose that the size of each component is 50 also, which means the size of 3 will be 150, and the total size for this module will be 750 kilobytes. Okay, so now let's imagine what will happen when we open the page A. When you open the page A, Chrome will download the main.js, okay, and then Angular application will recognize this URL and will know that we need the A component. So Chrome will download the X module, and suppose that X module or we do lazy loading with X module, which means that we have a file named x.js. Okay, so now Chrome will download this file, and the size of this file is 750. But actually we need only component A with the tabs module, and the component A, the size of component A is 50, and the tabs module is only 50, which means we need only 100 kilobyte. This means that we have a lot of extra code, and this causes two problems. The first one is that Angular needs more time to download this file, of course, the time for downloading 100 kilobytes is less than the time needed for downloading 750 kilobyte. Okay. The second problem is that, of course, the file with size 700 kilobytes, for example, have a lot of code, okay, that we don't need, which means that Chrome will need a lot of time to read it, and this is unnecessary time. Okay, and this, of course, decrease the performance. So now imagine that we will remove the shared module and we only use the table module, the tabs module, and the button module, which means, or the size of these three ones will be 150, and the size of the component 150, so the total size will be 300 only. Okay, yes, this is good, and this will increase the performance, but the problem is still, because we need 100 only, but we will download 300. Okay, so now the problem is we have always extra code, and or we have unnecessary JavaScript code, and this problem exists without shared module or with shared module. So what is the best solution for this problem? The best solution is to make one module, or to make one module for each page or for each view, which means that you have to make, for example, one module for component A, and one module for component B, and one module for component C. Okay, this will good for performance, and this means that you will use only the code that you need actually, or the code that you really need. For example, if we created one module for component A with the tabs module only, this means that we will have 100 kilobyte code, and this is what we actually need. But the problem with this approach is that if you have a large or a big application, this means that you will have a lot of files. Okay, for example, if you need 100 component or 100 page in your application, this means that you will need 100 modules also, and this is very bad. So the best solution is to make the component stand alone, which means that to make the component independent of module, and this is the standalone component, or this is what the Angular team did by creating standalone component. So now the question is, does this mean that we shouldn't use Angular module again? No, we can use Angular module again, but in one case. For example, if you have 3 components, but to use one of them, you have to use the other two, or in other words, if you have three components that should be used in together, this means that it is better to put them inside one module and use this module because they are very coupled. Okay, this is the only way. So now, why I am telling you this before starting the project of the beginner level, while we will start using the old methods, because I want you to be able to create applications with a good performance even if you are working with old versions. Also, some companies have clients, okay, with projects with old versions. For example, I know a company whose client gives them a project, an old project with Angular 9, and this client needs his changes very quick, and the company doesn't have any time to update Angular versions. So they have to work with Angular 9, and this means that if you are in this situation, you have to know how to make the performance of this old application very good. Okay, so this is a good concept to understand, and this is the end of the video. And if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask us, and thank you for watching.